hold your horses. This is chapter 17 of Author Talks with Lisa T. And coming up, I chat with Christina Lynch about her delightful new novel, Pony Confidential, featuring a vengeful pony who helps solve a murder. Sound silly? It is, in all the best ways possible.
When I first picked up this book and started reading it, I thought, this is the most ridiculous plot I've read. But your story about a pony who solves a murder, eventually I was smiling as I was reading it on the subway and laughing a little bit too. You managed to make a murder joyful? Tell us a little bit more about it.
Well, thank you. First off, thank you so much for having me and for reading the book. It is ultimately, it's a hopeful, joyful book, even though it is centered around a murder, because it's really a love story, right? It's the story of the bond between this woman and her animal, right? Who happens to be a pony. But yeah, so it's centered around a murder. I think one thing that helps is the murder is pretty far in the past. So you're not kind of experiencing it, although she does, anyway, I don't want to give too much away. But,
no, never.
But yeah, it's a humor book centered around a murder.
Now, the story's really an equine odyssey. Your pony's trying to get home, but there are distractions and obstacles along the way that delay him from getting there. And not to mention, there are more than a few animals who share names with the classic Greek tale.
Yes.
How did that story end up inspiring this one?
So I'm a novelist, but also a professor. So I'm a professor of English at College of the Sequoias in Visalia, California. And I was teaching World Lit in the fall of 2019. And then, we all went online in the spring of 2020. So the Odyssey was much on my mind because, many of us remember from reading it in school that maybe the translation was kind of outdated and rusty and it wasn't so much fun. But there are new translations of the Odyssey, and it's a great action story. So I was teaching that and had this idea of writing a story about a pony, and the two, I don't know, alchemically merged in my brain. And I thought, well, that's a really interesting model. The Odyssey is structured in a way that's quite unusual for us now. It starts in the middle, and some of it is told in flashback, and then it moves forward. And it changes points of view. So when you actually look at it, it's quite modern in the way it's told. So I had fun with it. I did. There's little things hidden in there. You do not have to know the Odyssey or have read it to enjoy Pony Confidential. But if you are a amateur classicist,
all the nerds out there, there's the nice little Easter eggs for us out there.
Lots of Easter eggs related to the Odyssey in there. So, and a few others as well, little literary things hidden in there.
I love the story that you tell that this was supposed to be a Christmas book first.
Yes, so this book was actually born in my mind as a Christmas movie. I don't know about you, but I love the Christmas. The Christmas movie thing is a great source of joy to me, like the popcorn, the glass of wine, and the Christmas. So I thought, well, I could write one of those. I used to be a television writer, so I have written for the screen before. And I thought, well, that would be a fun side project to do in between books. But when my book agent heard about this, I said, she said, what's your next project? I said, I'm going to write a movie called Christmas Pony about a pony that's looking for his owner. And she said, oh, you have to write it as a book. And so I did. And then when I delivered it to her, she went, oh,
not what you wanted to hear.
Yeah. not exactly what I was expecting, because it's darkly funny, and it is suitable, I think, for all ages, but I've said to people, read it before you give it to your kids, because there are some darker moments in it. But it's very funny. And so then it was about trying to turn that into it was a novella, so turn it into a full-length murder mystery. So yes, it was born as Christmas Pony.
So in that version, the earlier versions of this book, was the pony always a narrator?
Yes. In fact, he was the only narrator in the first version. So it was just him kind of setting out. He was vengeful, but also, that longing for home and trying to find her. And we didn't really know what happened to Penny in the original version. But now we do. So that was an interesting challenge. When we found a publisher, they said, well, we want it to be a full-length murder mystery. And so, telling the story also from Penny's point of view made sense, even because in the Odyssey, the model for this, there are sections from Penelope's point of view, and also Telemachus, Odysseus's son. So you do get the shifting points of view even in that classic text.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but we never really get to know the pony's name, right?
Because think about what happens to ponies, right? So I have an adopted pony here, and I don't know he came to me with the name of Bill, and I don't know that Bill has always been Bill's name. So we don't ever have a definitive name for the pony. So yeah, that's true. But because he has different names, he's called Houdini and he's called O, which is a nod to Odysseus. He calls himself Hero at one point. So he has a lot of different names. Yeah.
He has a wonderful personality too.
He's complex.
So I'm going to guess you're definitely a horse person and you've had a beloved pony.
Yes, yes. I think I inherited that gene, and you can't really escape it. Like most people kind of go, particularly girls go through a phase where they like horses, and then most of them grow out of that. And some of us are left with it for life. So yeah, I never had my own pony growing up, but I was always I was drawn to them, right? So I would play with my friends' ponies. And then when we moved to Chicago, I worked in a polo stable there. They used to play polo in the basement of the Armory in Chicago. So I worked there. So I was always kind of around horses, but never had my own until I was an adult. And now I have 3 horses and 2 ponies. So
Any goats and dogs?
I have 2 dogs. In fact, they're right out there in the driveway now. No goats, but it's so tempting, right? With after having created the Cersei character. But I also live in mountain lion territory, so it's hard to have an animal that small that doesn't live in the house, right? It has to live in the house with me.
Speaking of small animals, I think you've made me look at rats in a different light as well. And with
Yes.
someone who's in New York City, you never look at them in a good light, but after your book, you're like, oh, maybe they're scrappy and, and they're up to stuff.
Yeah, that character, the character of Dr. Rat, just I don't know where that came from. Sometimes you read things you've written and you think, did I really come up with that?
And for people who are wondering, Dr. Rat ends up being a sort of a horse whisperer, I guess.
The horse whisperer, yeah.
Yeah. So you have some pretty awful humans in this book, but all the animals seem to be better, people. Are you trying to tell us something?
Maybe. I think that I think animals are the best of us, right? Like their love is so pure. I don't know if you have a pet, but
I did. I had cats and
yeah,
a hamster when I was growing up.
right? And they're just they're consistent and wonderful, but also complex, right? Like they have personalities. Each animal is different. And yeah, I do think they're not. I don't want to malign our species too much, but they're driven by pretty consistent things, right? They want enough food to eat and they want a safe place to sleep, but they don't go past that into all of the other things that that drive us as humans.
I think one of my favorite observations that your pony makes in this book is when he's talking about the afterlife and what it would look like if ponies ruled it. And I gotta be honest, it seems like a great place right about now.
Yes. Yes. I was also teaching Dante's Inferno at the same time, right, as writing it and thinking about, um, yeah, like different conceptions of the afterlife and where everybody would end up.
So do you think you'll ever write a book that's like this again?
Oh, that's a funny question. Like this, no, but I'm working on a new book now. I can't say too much about it, but it is a mystery from an unusual point of view. So I think yes, in the sense of something that is funny and warm-hearted, but also looking very deeply at us and what we value and how we behave and treat each other. So yes, in that sense.
You told us you've been a TV writer as well. How would you adapt Pony Confidential? Or could you, or is it just meant to be enjoyed in the written form?
No, no, I think it would be a great movie. It would come full circle, right? Back to the
It has to
original.
be a Hallmark Christmas movie,
I
right?
think so, yeah. So, yeah, no, I think a friend was asking me the other day, do you think it should be animated or live action? And I think it
Mm.
could be live action because the technology has come so far. Horses used to be kind of the hardest thing to do in animation and CGI because of something about the way they move, I think is particularly difficult to animate. But the technology has come so far that I think you could really have fun with it live action. And again, I don't want to give too much away, but there are scenes that would be very funny.
Yes, for sure. And you don't need the Mr. Ed like fishing line to make like the lips move.
No, no.
Well, we've been talking to Christina Lynch, and the new book is Pony Confidential. It's a great Christmas gift. It's a great gift for yourself. And if it's a wonderfully fun read. Thank you so much for joining me today to talk about it.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here. Thrilled.
And that's where we close the book on this chapter. Next time, I'm cooking up some holiday book fun. Nothing too sweet, I promise. Until then, follow me on Instagram at Lisa T Books. You can also show your love by supporting me on Patreon. Just search for Author Talks with Lisa T. And if you have something to say, head to lisatbooks.com to drop me an email. Keep turning those pages. I'm Lisa T.